Oh, you already
Yes.
moved on. You already moved on to Israel and Gaza?
Yeah, it looks like it. I didn't do it.
You press the button. Alrighty. Well, um, okay. So with that being said, we've got a lot going on the Israel and Gaza's front. Let me just restart this real quick.
Yeah, I'll head this one. So there was a recent post that I had saw. It came from the New York Times. There was a recent op-ed from the New York Times. There was a war scholar, John Spencer, challenges the claims of genocide in Gaza made by fellow academic Omer Bartov. Spencer, who has extensive experience in urban warfare, has and has embedded with the IDF, argues that genocide requires a specific intent to destroy a group. A standard he inserts has not been met by in this conflict. And look, I can continue with this op-ed. I think genocide has been spammed so much with this recent war that it's almost like everything else. It's almost like the word racist. It's almost like the word Hitler and Nazis. It's been so used that it's actually lost its true meaning. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with. I don't know everything that's going on in Gaza. I'm not there on the ground. I can't see everything. Obviously, God knows. But I think if there was going to be a genocide, I think we would have witnessed it by now. And I just don't think that the claim is there. Now, we can move forward and start talking about, the famine that's being reported, or, the starvation that's happening purposely. And we can start talking a little bit about that. But yeah, I mean, as far as the genocide, I haven't seen it. They've been saying it since the beginning, and I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I'm back, but there's news on both sides of things, and obviously we're guided by skepticism in these days. Um, you had sent over a video of Palestinians, for example, cheering for the Gaza soldiers.
Israeli soldiers. Yeah, I mean, we're getting mixed reporting, and look, one of the things that I have a hard time with is I have a hard time believing the mainstream media, which is I have a hard time believing things that is coming out of the UN. When it comes to reporting about what's happening in Gaza, I have a hard time believing the reports that is coming out by Hamas. I just have a hard time believing those things. And so, um, Matt, I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that?
Not really. Let's we can listen to it out of the words of a IDF soldier.
I'm Colonel Abdallah Khalabi, the head of the CLA Gaza. We are currently on the Palestinian side of Kerem Shalom crossing. At this very moment, as you can see behind me, there are over 800 trucks of humanitarian aid that have entered Gaza and waiting for collection and distribution by the United Nations and the aid organizations to the residents of Gaza. We have operated to increase the numbers of trucks, extended the operating hours of crossings, coordinated the new roads for aid collection, and opened additional crossings. And yet, the aid is still waiting to be collected by international aid organizations. I want to emphasize, Israel does not limit the number of trucks entering the Gaza Strip, and it is the collection issue that is preventing continuous delivery of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Despite the clear facts you can see behind me, Hamas is running a deliberate and false propaganda campaign that presents a distorted picture of the humanitarian situation, not out of concern for Gazian residents, but as a pressure tactic in the framework of the negotiations. We operate every day to bring in aid. Hamas operates every day to create a perception of crisis. The international community needs to know the truth. We are working in close coordination with the United Nations and aid organizations, arguing them to continue arriving
Yeah, so
to
I think
collect.
this is a good
Sounds like he's reading
stopping
from a
point for this
script.
clip. Yeah, I mean, but look, I think here's the thing. Okay, like I believe that there's something more spiritual that's happening with all the propaganda that's coming out against Israel, like purposely starving Palestinians. Number one, I think here's something that we have to preface: is Hamas is at the end of their rule and reign in Gaza, and I think they know it. They don't have many hostages left. Matter of fact, they left the bargaining table because they know if they give up the last hostages, as Trump had said, that they have no more cards to play, and they're not going to have any kind of leverage moving forward, and they're basically done. This is it. So what do they have left to do? Is they have only deception to play off of, to propagandize a starvation campaign that Israel is heading. And I'm just not buying it, because when before all of the aid was going into the UN, what would happen is that Hamas would take over all of the aid, and then they would sell it for a very high price to keep the money coming into Hamas. In addition to that, what they would do is they would recruit young men to join Hamas and say, hey, we have all the food. If you join us, you can feed your family. And so young men, that's how they kept on having people come and join Hamas. I'm just not buying the propaganda that is coming out that Israel is purposely starving people. Because, I mean, we can clearly see that people are getting aid.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you. I definitely smell something rotten in this whole discussion, and it's spoken over and over by Trump and Netanyahu. Netanyahu came on the what was it, the Nuke Boys or some sort of podcast over the weekend. So they've been doing their media tour and explaining of how it's actually Hamas who has been preventing the aid from reaching them, and in fact, stealing a lot of the food from the people in order to create these images. It's because of all of this internet hype that's taken place over the course of the past, 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so, something like this, where we've seen a lot of animosity directed towards Israel and a whole heck of a lot of skepticism and a lot of conspiracies on the rise that are pointing the finger at AIPAC, so on and so forth. Why wouldn't Hamas or any state
100%.
seize the opportunity in order to push forward this narrative? So, as skeptical as we are about the deep state United States, and Donald Trump as he goes forward and a couple of steps back, Netanyahu, we released our 3-hour interview with Yariv Ben Yehuda on our channel, Faith the Nation on YouTube, a 2.5-hour discussion with him, detailing all of the scandals that are currently enveloping over there in Israel. This one on its face does seem something that's skeptical, and I think that's why we're analyzing the news in order to see, what narrative is being presented to us, and we can hear what Trump has to say a little bit more on the subject here next.
Yeah, Gaza, they pulled out of Gaza. They pulled out in terms of negotiating. It was too bad. Hamas didn't really want to make a deal. I think they want to die. And it's very, very bad.
Are you done with
and
it?
it got to be to a point where you're gonna have to finish the job. They really they asked for things. Don't forget, we got a lot of hostages out. So now we're down to the final hostages, and they know what happens after you get the final hostages. And basically, because of that, they really didn't want to make a deal. I saw that. So they pulled out, and they're gonna have to fight, and they're gonna have to clean it up. You're gonna have to get.
Yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about. They don't want to give up the remaining hostages, and I believe this is just a last ditch effort to try to win over, the majority of the population, people that are watching, and the UN, people in Europe, and that are typically usually siding with Palestinian two-state solutions, things like that. And I think it's just one of those last ditch efforts because they're trying to stay in power.
Yeah, and I think I tend to agree with you on the subject matter because after the last month or so of what we've been seeing happen with Iran, it doesn't benefit Israel at this point in time in order to further condemn or further give the internet and the people who are highly skeptical of them reasons to attack, especially since they're going on this whole media brigade, which we'll be getting into here. Let's go to our next clip.
Welcome to the NewsHour. In Israel today, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's considering alternative options to ceasefire talks with Hamas. That comes after Israel and the U.S. pulled their negotiating teams out of talks in Qatar yesterday. And it echoes a statement by White House Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who said Hamas was showing what he called a lack of desire to reach a deal. Hamas says negotiations are set to resume next week. But while leaving the White House today, President Trump suggested Israel's only option is to escalate the war.
It got to be to a point where you're going to have to finish the job. So now we're down to the final hostages, and they know what happens after you get the final hostages. And basically, because of that, they really didn't want to make it.
In the past day, all told, officials say hunger has claimed more than 120 lives since the start of the war, most of them children. This week, Israel showed journalists what it says is aid piled up by the border waiting to be distributed by the United Nations. But the UN says its operations are limited by Israeli military restrictions and looting. European diplomats met with Iran's deputy foreign
Who's
minister
looting them?
today in an effort to restart.
I mean, hold on. Israel isn't
Iran.
looting. Why would Israel be looting it? Who's looting it? Who would be looting it? Would it be Israel? Would Israelis be looting? So who's looting it? I don't know. That doesn't make no sense. Who's looting it? I don't know. Anyways.
I mean, there's only a couple of things that they can utilize in order to cause people to side with terrorists, essentially, right? And that's going to be pointing the finger at Israel and pointing at the United States as being the great Satan, as has been depicted. And these images, we know that an image speaks 1,000 words, and the visual images of children starving definitely feeds into that narrative. Let's go to our next clip.
Now let's get to some of your late news headlines. In the Middle East, ceasefire talks are off for now. The war goes on and the death toll climbs. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza worsens with Palestinians starving to death or risking their lives to get food. We caution you, there are images of starving children in this report from Elizabeth Palmer.
Mohammed Mahdi lives with his family, but there's nothing to eat. So he sets off to find food, joining thousands of Gazans so hungry they're heading into an area the Israeli military has told them not to go. But this is what they're after, a chance to loot scarce aid from the few passing trucks, precious bags of flour. As Mahdi waits, an arm unshaken. It happens every day. The images of hunger in Gaza are haunting. Children are the most vulnerable, but almost no one has enough to eat. Israel pushes
It's
back.
almost like a perfect media package there.
Yeah, obviously, I feel sympathy for those children. I don't know where those children are at. I have a hard time believing that that's in Palestine, but if it's in Palestine, I'm willing to accept it. Okay, and obviously, we don't like it if that for any child to be starving like that, it's a travesty. But my question that I have was that real footage from someone from Palestine? Because we know that Palestinians have collected other data from other places to propagate that it's happening here. I mean, they've used pictures from years ago to try to, fool the population or the people that it's happened now or it's happening there. So that's kind of
Yeah.
where I'm at with that. I think we
And
have another
Trump's
clip, or if you want to.
and yeah, and Trump's addressed the situation here. It's going on to the news and just saying, "Hey guys, this is a whole fraud." Necessarily isn't going to appease conspiratorial voices such as myself, But doubling down efforts in order to get food to them and bypassing the resistance efforts by Hamas, I think that definitely strikes a chord with what I would like to see. So let's see what's going on next year.
President Trump today called on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to allow food to flow into Gaza. As the conflict continues, the humanitarian crisis is only getting worse. People are dying and children are suffering. They're sick, they're hungry. The images are heartbreaking, but living it, seeing it up close and in person still haunts a nurse who just returned from the region. Eyewitness News anchor Michelle Charlesworth talked to him in the newsroom now with his message. Michelle?
Well, President Trump hours ago said emergency food must be let in by Israel. Journalists can't get in. The information and pictures have been coming from the health ministry of Gaza, which tells us 111 people have died of starvation in the past 21 months, 81 of them children. I talked to a medical professional who was in Gaza 6 months ago. He says the outrage is too little, too late.
You guys are showing their skeletons now. It's a bit too late.
These are the recent pictures he's talking about. Children in Gaza starving and dying from malnutrition. No formula. New mothers cannot produce milk.
Pause that for a second. Pause that. Rewind that. Rewind that for a second, actually.
Yeah, you have your own buttons there,
that.
bro.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Starving and dying from malnutrition. No.
Okay. If I'm not mistaken, we can't pause the video on the screen. Like, this is a sad picture. No question asked. Like, I would definitely hurt for this child. Okay, but I believe this photo was on, if I'm not mistaken, was on the New York Times, and it was, I believe it was already debunked that photo was somebody with like a child with some kind of muscle disorder, and it wasn't due to starving. And so I'm trying to see if I can find the footage here, but nonetheless, like, obviously my heart would break for this child and this mother, this family. If this really is going on in Gaza, obviously it needs to end. No doubt about it.
And as I said, this wasn't something new. They just mentioned it in the article. That's over the course of the last 22 months. And there's been the reason why the youth and all of this anti-Israel conversation has entered in, not just onto X, but just storming all over the internet and all over the campuses, isn't just because it's made up. It's because over 50,000 Palestinian kids dead, right? And so the idea that perhaps Israel has been trying to persuade a revolt to take place over there within the Gaza people to rise up, isn't beyond us. But it's analyzing the news like this is always about analyzing a mixture of motives, right? And what benefits them the most. Is killing a bunch of innocent children, civilians, actually benefit Israel? No. So ultimately, when we're playing the conspiratorial game, we're often looking at somebody and saying that they're a personification of evil, regardless of what their motive actually is. What I just see right now happening is Benjamin Netanyahu and the different responses that are taking place now just going up to combat all of this recent dialogue. Starvation is not something that we've been hearing over the course 12 months, to be honest with you. I haven't heard anything about starvation. What I've heard about is deaths, mutilations, and the targeting of civilians. So I do find that to be a little bit coincidental for something like this, which is a very short picture. There's lots of things about the Middle East which is very difficult to dissect, But the idea, like when's the conflict start? Who's responsible? Did they fund Hamas? Did they not? But the starvation of children is something a little bit more digestible for the American people in order to win over the sympathies of ourselves. And Netanyahu, in this conversation that's coming up here, really touches on that. He goes into detail. I did clip quite a little bit of this conversation. So
Before we
Yeah.
get there, I just want to. I did find the conversation that Charlie Kirk had about that photo, if I may. I am sharing my screen here.
Sure.
If I may, yeah. Let's
This is all this is.
listen to what he has to say.
Propaganda, emotional, visual, optical warfare. Optical warfare.
Not the
And
same
so
image,
no one likes
though.
to see what you're looking at here. Looks like a kid who's starving to death, right? So the whole story says this. The story says young, old, and sick starved to death in Gaza. That is the front page of the New York Times. And so the picture they're using is of Muhammad al-Matawak, a child with a muscular disorder, and they're using that as the face of famine in Gaza. And so what you are saying, Rabbi,
Okay, so yeah, so again, you know, it's like Charlie Kirk said, is what they're playing on is a visual warfare, and it all has to do with deception for Hamas to stay in power, and I think that if we're not careful, you know, the devil's trying to deceive us into thinking that what's happening in Gaza is, you know, a genocide, a purposeful starvation and genocide. And again, like you were saying, Matt, I don't think Israel has any kind of positive outcome to try to do something like this. It's, you know, it's not the it's just not a good play on the chessboard, you know, that they're playing to do something like this. It just doesn't benefit them at all to do something like that. But anyways, I just wanted to touch on that photo.
You know, I'm extremely harsh on Benjamin Netanyahu, and after having spent some time talking to Yariv, you know, when I listen to someone like Candace Owens or any of the other voices that are out there, Nick Fuentes, it doesn't really mean much to me because I have such a distrust of media personalities and people who are really so impressed by their own opinions. But when I speak to somebody who I know, and I know them personally, and they're an eyewitness, boots on the ground, that really does. That to me becomes something is established by 2 or 3 more witnesses, you know, as the scriptures say. So, you know, I have this very harsh opinion of Benjamin Netanyahu. I think that he is a villain. If I had a gun to my head and I had to decide right now, you know, that whether he's a good guy or a bad guy, I would say he's a bad guy. I don't really know. But he is extremely well spoken, and I think he's a propaganda master. And he recently went on to the Nelk Boys, the Full Frontal or Full whatever the heck it's called podcast, and had an in-depth sit-down discussion for him, which we're going to go ahead and get to next.
I've met quite a few of the American presidents because I've been in office pretty long time. Not because we don't have elections, but because I've won quite a few of them. Okay, I think there's never been a friend like Donald Trump in the White House for Israel. I think he's a remarkable leader. I think he's changing history. He said he'll make America great again. He's already done it. You know, America is widely admired now around the world, and especially after our joint operation against this regime that wanted to, you know, chant death to America, death to Israel. Well, I think together we've shown the world a different face of America. Very powerful, very directed, very resolute.
You guys are very tight, right? Would you call it a bromance?
Well, you might. I mean, we've known each other several decades, and you know, I really like him.
What do you like most about him?
You know, if you meet him close up, and Sarah and I have had this opportunity many times, including last night in a great dinner we had at the White House. First of all, Donald Trump can be very funny.
Of course.
He can be very funny.
Especially off camera, right?
He can, nations.
Did you have any type of relationship with Biden?
Not the same. I've known Biden for, 40 years? Almost as long. Well, both of them. Over the decades, it was a different relationship. It was a friendship, but also it evolved into, how shall I say this? Severe disagreements. Mm-hmm. And with Donald Trump, we've had powerful agreements. And where there's no daylight between an American president and an Israeli prime minister, amazing things can happen. Like our common enemies who chant death to Israel, death to America, and want to develop atomic bombs and the means to deliver them to this city and to every part of America, all of a sudden they're not so intimidating. All of a sudden we can defeat them. All of a sudden you can use these brave American pilots who come from around the world, drop it right over the bunker, and help us end the amazing feats of our soldiers and pilots. That's an amazing thing. It's good for America. It's good for the security of every single American.
How do you feel about the Americans' opinion on Israel right now?
Well, look, I think the broad segments of the American public support Israel, but I'm concerned that the young people in America, some of them are getting the wrong picture of Israel, vilification, demonization. You can feed them a lot of lies. So the only way you can fight lies is with the truth. How do you fight lies? You tell the truth. And you have to tell it as often and as, intensely as the lies that are leveled against you. And that requires an effort. It's like another battlefield, you know? And I'm doing this podcast, among other things, to reach young people.
Of course.
You guys are pretty young. I mean,
30 years old.
30.
30.
That's young.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest misconceptions are about Israel?
Well, first of all, they don't know what kind of an open society it is, how pluralistic. I mean, we live in the heart of the Middle East, okay? Iran is not that far away. In Iran, they hang gays by cranes. In Israel, probably Tel Aviv is one of the, the most open, liberal-minded city on earth. Israel is a high.
We visited there, yeah.
No, it's completely different.
Our assistant's gay too. He had a good time.
Proud of, by the way.
We all had a
so,
good
and they go into this in detail, actually, for a good 10 minutes, touting of one of the reasons why people should look fondly upon Israel is because of their acceptance and celebration of homosexuality.
Yeah.
Look at that. How about women? Okay, women in Iran, they shoot the women. They shot this extraordinarily brave and beautiful woman, shot on the sidewalk because she showed too much hair. In Israel, women are, you know what women? I'll tell you what the difference is. Okay, so I had this young woman officer in my military secretariat. The prime minister has military secretariat, and usually has a general and it has staff assistants. One of the staff assistants was this young woman pilot, navigator, on leave from the Air Force to do this work in the prime minister's office. You know what she did now? She was flying over the skies of Tehran, attacking this horrible regime that tyrannizes the women in Tehran. That's the difference. The women there get shot on the sidewalk, and an Israeli woman pilot helps liberate Iran, quite the women of Iran. And boy, that's a big difference. And that's true of everything.
I'm not claiming to be an expert too, but I'll just read stuff on like X and like people will say like Israel's killing babies or like they're starving people.
That's completely false. In fact, the reason we have civilian casualties in Gaza is because Hamas, who are basically horrible murderers and killers, okay, committed to our destruction and your destruction. They say so openly. I mean, they say the big enemy, the real enemy, the great Satan is America. And Israel is the small Satan. But it's a small Satan that is standing in their way of conquering with other Iranian proxies, conquering the Middle East, and then we move on to you. So America is the great Satan, and America, needs to disappear. And we stand in their way. But one of the things you have to understand is Gaza is the densest urban environment you can find, and Hamas embeds itself in the civilian population of Gaza, the Palestinians, okay? We tell the Palestinians, hey, leave, because after they butchered us and raped our women and beheaded our men and burned our babies, we have to remove this threat. So we come in to take care of the Hamas terrorists. But the Hamas terrorists don't leave the civilian neighborhoods. And we say to the civilians, we call them up because we have their telephone numbers. We say, leave, please leave. We send them leaflets, millions of leaflets, please leave. We do everything that is possible that no army has done. They want to leave. You know what Hamas does? They shoot them. You say, we want you to stay because we want to have civilian casualties, because then they can show it on CNN or all these other networks and so on and claim that Israel is deliberately doing this. We're not deliberately doing anything. We'd like them to leave. And in fact, successively during the war, it's been now a year and a half, they finally do leave, most of them. So we've minimized those casualties, but it's not because we seek to have civilian casualties, it's because Hamas wants them. They're willing to sacrifice their own children, their own families, both because they don't really care for human life, but also because they think it's very good propaganda against us. And if they just let them leave the war zone, get to the safe parts, safe havens that we've created in Gaza, no one would be hurt. And the minute Hamas lays down its arms, surrenders, maybe we let them leave Gaza, that's the end of the war. No one gets hurt.
What would your message be to
Yeah. So hard to say, man. It's all, when you're playing this game of chess of deciding who to trust and who not to trust, how the heck do I know? I really don't. And it changes from day to day. But I don't trust that guy. Later on, which we're not going to get to, but he's talking about how much he loves Burger King. They're having a conversation about, no, McDonald's is better. And then he goes on for like 20 minutes reciting like this war story that I'm pretty sure I've actually seen in a movie, like Snakes on a Plane or something like that. William, it's like a William Neeson plot movie where he's just recounting a story between him and his brother. So I do think it's worth watching. It's about an hour and 20 minutes on the Nelk Boys channel. And, because I don't think it's fair. That's why it try to be like fair and balanced and schizophrenic and getting both sides of the story. When I'm super harsh on Israel as it comes, but I also just don't like sitting there and being like, this guy's lying. I know that he's lying. He's evil. I don't know what to do with these people. Everything's a mess.
Yeah. Well, like number one, I think that America's the big Satan. Israel's a little Satan. I think that's kind of getting played out a little bit too. I understand though that Islam in its nature wants to wipe out Jews and Christians. I mean, in its natural form of religion, they want to destroy Jews and Christians. I think there's no debate about that. And so when you get an organization like a Hamas that believe in Islam to its full extent, as the Quran teaches, then I think that you would see a governmental system like Hamas, because they are a governmental system. They were voted in office in 2008, and there was never another election afterwards. So when you see an Islamic organization like Hamas in power, they're gonna want those things to manifest. I mean, it's in their constitution that they want to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. That is true. Okay. And so when you couple that with the ideologies of Islam, becoming martyrs, that everything is a holy war, that you have to kill in the name of Allah to fight the unbelievers or the infidels, then yes, I think that there is validation to some of the things he's saying. Again, I don't think Bibi is innocent in everything. Obviously, I think that after hearing about the Bibi files and things like that, I'm definitely more skeptical of him, and perhaps maybe some of his agenda that he's doing. But I don't think that negates everything that is Hamas in Palestine.
Yeah, and I think if you want to get more of a in-depth rundown of what Alex and I were uncovering per se when it comes to Benjamin Netanyahu, you should go over to the Faith the Nation YouTube channel, and you can check out this video that we did. And we'll just play a little bit of it for you. We think we did a little bit of an expose on him, not to say it's conclusive.
little promo video right there.
I don't know what the heck, but all right. Anyhow, so if you go onto the YouTube Faith the Nation channel, Israel's deep state exposed.
Constantly attacked for my Jewishness.
Truth about Netanyahu.
You know a thing or two. Do you have any advice for what we can do?
I've suggested an organization getting 100 really good lawyers. I'm constantly attacked for my Jewishness.
You know a thing or two. Do you have any advice for what we can do?
I've suggested an organization getting 100 really good lawyers not to let a single person get away with a single anti-Semitic act, because the police almost never prosecute. We'll sue them. We'll take away their car.
Oh, interesting, because the police won't prosecute, so you're just going to go from legal repercussions.
Take away their car, take away their apartment, bankrupt them, make them sleep on the street. I have no sympathy for an anti.
Is this the same Alan Dershowitz that we saw last week that was talking about like Epstein? I don't like that Alan Dershowitz.
I know, and this is the type of content that enrages us, right? This is what it's all about.
Well, you see, here's the thing about the whole anti-Semite thing. Just like I spoke about genocide being thrown around and it's losing its value, I think anti-Semite has been thrown around so much that it's losing its real meaning. Because to say that if one criticizes Israel for what they do, you become an anti-Semite. Like, where does the line get drawn? Like, who says you can't criticize, Jews? And maybe that's not his position. I'm not trying to straw man it or anything like that. But I have heard people say things like that. Because if let's just say, for example, if I say that Jews, let's just say, let me be specific here. If I said that the Pharisees of Jesus' day, the Jews, the Pharisaical Jews of Jesus' day killed Jesus, that's a true statement. That's not being anti-Semitic, right? But I've heard Jews say when people say Jews killed Jesus, they're being anti-Semitic when it's only just telling the truth. Okay. And look, I think just really quick, there's three people that were guilty, or three groups of people that were guilty of Jesus's death. The one with the biggest sin was one of Jesus's followers. Well, let me just preface that. But the next ones down on the list were the Pharisaical rabbis, Jewish people of the day. They were the ones that handed over to Pontius Pilate Jesus. They handed Jesus over to Pontius Pilate to be crucified. And they said, his blood be on our hands. So that's not being anti-Semitic. The same Jews will say that the New Testament is anti-Semitic. And so, this whole thing about even anti-Semites, this word, again, I just believe that word is losing its real meaning. It's not the same thing as being a Hitler, but they're just using it to anybody and everybody that is criticizing Israel. And I don't believe that's anti-Semitic. You can criticize somebody. You can criticize me.
Everybody off.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're getting anti-Semitic. Epstein. What was that? Epstein. What was that word that we were using?
Fatigue.
Can't remember. Fatigue.
Everything.
Anti-Semitic fatigue.
But before we transition, though, let's do a proper promo for the video that we put a lot of effort into. Let me just roll this up again here. It's again on the Faith the Nation YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Faith the Nation. Welcome to Faith the Nation, ladies and gentlemen. We have a special guest on.
And Netanyahu, he wasn't. And something that was revealed to us was that actually those indictments are the bare minimum, because there is a whole backstory that the country, or let's just say the DEA of this country, never approved to really investigate. It's all about
Yeah, it's all about the nuclear submarines, and Yuriv gets into that in detail. It's a nice watch for 2.5 hours to get really in depth regarding what we don't hear over here in the West regarding the specific details about the temperature over there of people's dissatisfaction and what these indictments are all about. Documentaries like the BB files that don't necessarily go into depth into detail with the atrocities that Benjamin Netanyahu has been being accused of and actually being indicted of over there in Israel. So definitely go check that out on the channel. And we have our next episode of Extreme Fatigue to get to, Alex. Are you ready to move on?
Man, just share my screen real quick. This was a video that a marketplace within Gaza today. And, Matt, when I shared it with you, you were like, well, does it look like they have a whole lot of food? And I'm like, well, no, it doesn't necessarily look like they have a whole ton of food, but it looks like they have food. And it doesn't look like there's anybody, if they were really starving, that they are actually chasing after it like somebody who would be starving. Right. And so I just really question the starvation narrative. Again, it does not saying that Netanyahu is a saint or IDF is doing everything right. But I'm just questioning the whole narrative of people that are actually starving to death and there's just no food there. So this was to confirm, this was the Al Sahaba market today in Gaza. And when I looked at the Grok post to confirm, it did say X post by Ayel Yacobi, dated July 28, 2025, highlights footage of the Al Sahaba market in Gaza City, which appears to be bustling with food activity, challenging the narratives of widespread starvation in the region. This market scene contrasts sharply with reports from earlier in the year, such as the IPCC's March 2024 projection of imminent famine in Gaza, where 70% of the population in North Gaza and Gaza governance were classified in IPC Phase 5 catastrophe, indicating severe food. Again, challenging the narratives that were coming in 2024 of starvation and famines. We remember that happened last year, that they were saying that there was famines and everybody starving. Well, it's a same story, different day, where we're getting, again, more reports. And again, this is footage of a Al Sahaba market in Gaza City, where people are ordering food, standing in line. People are walking by behind them, and nobody seems to be, going after all the food because they're starving. So, again,
indeed.
Yeah.
We shall see. We shall see. It should be as easy as we're in the 21st century. We've got the internet. We've got the phones everywhere. We should be able to get people boots on the ground and have these questions answered. We'll see what we get into. But before we and let's try to rush through the Epstein cover here. But we've got to cover it because it's just it's an intel deep assessment of how Trump is responding to the will of the people and the MAGA movement, which is really why we do have to keep our eye on the ball with the whole Epstein thing. But before we do,
the Epstein files just don't Epstein themselves.
Yeah. Before we do, let's just go to a short word from our sponsors, which is me and these crosses that are behind me. GodGears.com.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word was God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word was God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word was God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word was God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God.
GodGears.com. Got several different varieties crosses behind me. Use the coupon code FAITHTheNation to receive 10% off. We've got crosses for absolutely everybody, and these are handmade crosses created by Liza Turner, financed by me, and we've got a whole engineering plant ready. And Alex, why don't you go ahead and take away our other sponsor, Brother Brent, Sister Bridget over there at Jesus Saves.
Jesus Save Signs, Brother Brent and Sister Bridget with Jesus Save Signs. Guys, get your Jesus Saves merch. You can go to JesusSaveSigns.com. If you're into evangelism, if you just want to do something, tell people about the gospel with a simple 2-word message, Jesus saves. And it's as simple as that. People can be touched, changed, transformed, and saved with a simple message and a simple sign. They've got shirts, hats, car magnets, you name it. Go to JesusSaveSigns.com and get your Jesus Saves merch. I've got my shirt, cool shirt, all that stuff.
Amen. And the Epstein files, the situation has been solved. We know exactly what's going on, and here's the evidence.
We were prepared to